Good morning. I am Ryan Clifton Bowler, and I want to get right down to the news. I was reading an article from an online conservative site known as Trending Politics, and it's in reference to Governor Ron Desantis, who created what is called Woke Act. And I'm going to read this article. It's a very short article. I'm going to read this article, and it's good news for all of us that believe that critical race theory is destructive. In fact, I don't even want to say believe. I don't just believe it. I know it. It's destructive. And I'm going to read this article. And then once I'm finished reading this article, I'm going to give you my opinion on this. I'm going to give you some information on critical race theory, where it came from, and what the real objective is. And the article is entitled Breaking: Ron DeSantis Launches the Stop Woke Act. On Wednesday, Florida Governor Ron Desantis launched the Stop Woke Act to ban the teaching of critical race theory in grades K through 12. The Woke stands for Stop Wrongs Against Our Kids and Employees Act. And let me say something before I read any further. I like this concept, the woke, because this is kind of like a mockery of the so-called woke liberal concept that we all have been hearing about, go woke, go broke, or whatever. To sound cute, to sound nice, to sound really, hip and up to par, they use the term go woke, go broke. And they're deceiving millions of Americans into believing that this whole concept of being woke is about being woke. No, it's not. It's about rocking you to sleep and hating your country. That's what that's really about. But I'm going to go into that as I finish reading this article. It goes on to say, our legislation would defend any money for K through 12 going to CRT consultants, DeSantis said. No taxpayer dollars should be used to teach our kids to hate our country or hate each other. Bingo. The act also bars teachers and staff from receiving CRT training. We're also not going to allow the staff or employees or teachers in our education system to be subjected to that type of training where they're forced to sit there and listen, DeSantis asserted. Absolutely. This is wrong when it's done to our kids, but it's also wrong to force employees to have to go through that. And that's crazy, to forcing these employees to have to sit through teaching and training that in their heart they know they disagree with, but they have to sit through it, because if you don't, hey, you're going to end up losing your job. It's terrible. DeSantis unleashed on, quote, woke ideology, which is what I just talked about a minute ago, which seeks to change our country and the Constitution. Absolutely. They want to tear at the fabric of our society and our culture, the governor said. Just to understand, when you hear equity used, that is just an ability for people to smuggle in their ideology, because we don't need to have these terms. We have a society based on equality, where you're treated equally, regardless of your upbringing, regardless of your race. You have the same rights and privileges as anybody else. Absolutely. Equity is used to put the thumb on the scale in favor of their ideology, DeSantis said. Texas Governor Greg Abbott released a similar bill in June. I signed legislation that outlaws the teaching of CRT and protest civics, mandatory student protests, and lobbying activities that often overlap with progressive causes, Abbott said in a tweet in July. Texas is the first state to prohibit both practices in public K through 12 educations, he continued. And so that's the end of that article there. A very short article, but very to the point. And this is good news. This is real good news for Governor Ron DeSantis. And I hope and pray that more states who are being subjugated to this critical race theory, satanic doctrine, as far as I'm concerned, will finally open their eyes and really become woke, if you will. But the critical race theory is really a trick, people. It's really a trick, because critical race theory is a derivative of critical theory, which is a teaching that came from the Frankfurt School Marxist professors from Germany in the 1920s, who migrated here to America in the 1930s. And many of these Frankfurt School professors were strategically placed in different colleges and universities throughout the country. And they were assisted by a man by the name of John Dewey. And John Dewey, as I explained in the previous video, was a socialist and communist sympathizer who went to Russia and observed how the Russians were teaching their children. And basically, he took that same concept or ideology, brought it back here to America, and began to institute those concepts in the American schools. All right. As before, John Dewey, as I said before, John Dewey is considered by many to be the father of progressive education. Whenever you hear that term progressive, watch out for that. Okay. Now, critical theory, or critical race theory rather, is a derivative or an offshoot of critical theory. Critical theory was brought here to America in American schools, I think, around the 70s. But it came from the Frankfurt School of Marxism and was initiated or taught by the Frankfurt School professors and teachers. The purpose of critical theory, now this is the tricky part about this, because the purpose of critical theory is supposedly to critique certain teachings in America, such as math, history, race, and all these other things. The purpose was to critique these things and supposedly give people a more keener understanding. That's how they advertise it or marketed it, for lack of a better word. That's how the Frankfurt School professors advertised it or marketed it. But really, the real purpose of critical theory was to completely deconstructionalize, if you will, all the different teachings and understandings that we have in America in order to cause confusion and division. The purpose of critical theory was to basically cause the students to doubt everything they had been taught. Now, it's good to question things, and it is good to not just take everything at face value. You should research, you should study to find out what the true meaning is. But critical theory was designed to cause confusion, not understanding. It was designed to cause you to doubt everything. It was designed to cause you to doubt the Bible. This same kind of concept, critical theory, was also placed in a lot of these Bible colleges and Bible seminaries. So a lot of the professors that began to become members of the staffs in these Bible colleges and Bible seminaries basically were atheists. They didn't believe in God, and their main purpose was to basically deconstruct the Bible to the point where students that would come in, would hear it being taught and would begin to doubt that the Bible was the word of God. And they would come in believing in God and leave out atheists or agnostics. Really? The same philosophy through the K through 12 schools, and the same philosophy even in the universities. These Marxist professors infiltrated these institutions, passed this kind of concept of critical theory on to all their other professors and school staff, and this went on through the generations. So now you have kids and young people that are going through these schools and going to these colleges and universities and are being taught to hate the country. They're being taught to hate the Constitution. They're being taught to disbelieve in God. They're being taught to feel like that America is an oppressive, racist country. And this is where the critical race theory concept comes in. Because the critical race theory, as I said earlier, is an offshoot of critical theory. It goes more into detail. And what critical race theory does is it teaches that white people are inherently racist, and that all white people are inherently racist according to critical race theory, and that black people or people of color, POC, bunch of nonsense, are victims of a white oppression, and that there's nothing that they can do to change their situation. That is a lie. That is a trick. The purpose of critical race theory is to divide the children in order to bring about a revolution, a racial revolution. Okay? And once that racial revolution gets started and war breaks out, and war breaks out, and war breaks out, because that's the purpose, that's the objective, then the true Marxist initiators and Marxist controllers come in and save the day. But how do they save the day? They bring about the Marxist, they bring about the Marxist or communist government that they've been longing for. That's the purpose. That's the ultimate goal. Now, you got to understand something about critical race theory. CRT or critical race theory, whichever one you want to refer to it as. The proponents and creators of this concept are very intelligent. What they do is they change the titles. When you go through a lot of these schools and stuff and you don't see the term critical race theory, you're like, well, how can it be? That's a conspiracy theory. That can't be. You literally have politicians, progressive Democratic politicians saying that it doesn't exist because the term critical race theory isn't there. The term critical race theory isn't there when you look through the curriculum simply because the professors and the people there are changing the terms. The meaning is still there, but the terms is called, there was one particular term called educational theory or something along that line. But whenever you see stuff like that or sensitivity training, that's one of them. Sensitivity training, that's a trick. When you actually look at the curriculum and look at the PowerPoint curriculum concepts, you find out that it's actually critical race theory. They just gave it another title as to keep the people deceived, to keep the people blinded. It's critical race theory, folks, and it needs to be exposed because it's a dark, dangerous ideology that's designed to cause white people to hate themselves and feel guilty about being white. And oh man, I just feel so bad about, and that's why you have so many white people apologizing for everything. I get that a lot where I work at, constantly apologizing. Like I'm on my bike and I'll be riding my bike. And sometimes a white person may cross my path, they got to cross the street or whatever. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I say, you don't have to apologize. And I know where that comes from. It comes from this fake guilt that's being pushed by these liberal politicians and liberal corporation owners and so forth that's pushing this ideology. You don't have to apologize for that. You didn't do anything wrong. This is a seed that's being planted in you, and it's a lie. It's a straight out lie. So I'm glad that Governor Desantis is doing this. I pray and hope that this law actually will get passed. I don't think it passes Congress in the state of Florida. But I mean, either way it goes, I'm pretty sure he's going to push for it. So I'm glad about that. I hope other countries, I hope other states will follow suit. I know the liberal states are not going to do it. But I hope a lot of the conservative Republican states are going to do it because our country is under attack. But we got to take in consideration something that's very important. Back in the early days, as I mentioned earlier, through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and onward, a lot of people in America weren't aware of this kind of teaching because they had been basically rocked to sleep. Now, a lot of them are rocked to sleep today. But they're starting to wake up now because we have the internet, we have YouTube and other YouTubers that are exposing this type of stuff. But back in those days, they didn't have this kind of media outlets. So a lot of them was being rocked to sleep as this kind of teaching was infiltrating our schools and infiltrating our institutions and movies and sitcoms and so forth. A lot of people wasn't aware of it. They just kind of bypassed it. They were into the music. They were into disco and R&B and woo-wee and the new, what was called the British invasion and all of this type of stuff. They was into all of this type of stuff and having fun, not realizing that these type of things were designed to rock them to sleep, to keep them from focusing on the bigger, weightier issues, which had to do with critical theory and other concepts that were being pushed in our school systems. And then our kids is coming out hating America and not wanting to listen to their parents and no longer believing in God and all of these things. Where's all this stuff coming from? It's coming from the schools. In part, it's coming from the schools in part. So it's just good to be able to know that Governor Desantis is doing this. I hope he's successful and I hope other states follow suit. But what do you guys think about this? You think this is a good thing that Desantis is doing? You know, do you think that other states are going to follow suit? If you think so, please leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe. God bless you all and see you again.